On today's show, the plan for the Dallas Mavericks to get back to contention status again starts this offseason. We're going to tell you everything they do now.
This is Cooper Flagg, and you're listening to Locked On Mavs.
All five. I think that's a good question.
Good morning, Isaac. All these changes, I still got my dog Dwight Powell.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't.
Your team every day.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for over 10 years. Joining me, as always, my co-host, media member covering the Mavs for over 10 years, right alongside me, the off-season oligarch. The one we're thinking, what you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Just want to give a shout out to the Love is Blind finale that came out on Wednesday. Solid finale, solid season, some incredible new villains. Just blast Alex to the sun and Chris to the sun. So anyway, anybody who is Love is Blind fans, just reach out. We can talk about it.
Today's episode, we are not going in blind. We're going in exactly with 2020 vision going into the offseason because we know
what Avatar,
what the Mavs have to do to get to contention status. We'll talk about free agency. We'll talk about the Mavs need to do with their own players. And let's start here because the draft is the first step for the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs are currently sitting in 7th spot in the tank standings. They are 2 games ahead of the Grizzlies, which is a good spot for them to be in. They are 3 games back from the Pelicans, but the Pelicans have an incentive to be good, and they're trying, like literally from DeJounte Murray. They're like, hey, we're making a play and run, and they decided to do that. And so we're talking about the Mavs last 21 games. It's tank the rest of these games. Try to improve that draft spot if they can, but it does seem like they're going to be stuck in 7th, which gives them a decent chance. They have a 34% chance to get 8th in the draft, a 19, almost 20% chance to get 7th, 13% chance to get 10th, to get 9th, and then to get in the top 4, which is where you really want to be, where you're like, all right, we can get a really, really good player and set ourselves up for the future. You got a 32% chance to get one of those guys, 7.5% chance for you to make the decision that will probably go down in infamy if you pick the wrong guy of these top 3 guys, because they're all going to be potentially really good. But if it starts there, let's just start with, we know that if it 32% chance to get in the top 4, if they get one of those top 3 picks, like that all of a sudden like solidifies your rebuild. Like it kind of ends right there where you're like, all right, now we have the 2 guys. We have Flagg and either Peterson, Boozer, or Dabonsa. Like there's 32% chance the Mavs have got one of those guys.
Yeah, that's insane if you to think about it this way. Well, I mean, you said 32% in the top 4.
To top 4. So one of them could be Caleb Wilson, sure. But
or to get Wilson. I think it's a top 4 draft. So I would have Wilson locked in at that number 4 spot. I know other people feel differently, but
you wouldn't put Wilson with the other 3 guys, right? You're not saying that they're all 4 on the same level.
I think he's closer to those 3 than some.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but 32%.
I just think
that they have the 2 guys going forward, because you put Wilson on that level where you're like, all right, I feel good about him being the second guy. We just need to build the role players around these guys, get him experience, and then go.
Yeah, either way, if you land in the top 4 there, you're getting a wing that's going to go alongside Cooper Flagg for the next decade, right? If it's Peterson, I mean, there's a world in which Peterson, I guess, could be a 1, but he's most likely to be like a 2. Dabonsa, Wilson is a 3-4 combination. It's hard to figure out what position Boozer will be. He'll be really good. So it's like you just figure it out. Because like defensively, it's like I don't know. There's not all the 5s in the NBA. You're probably not comfortable with him guarding, but is he quick enough to guarding some of the 3s? So he's kind of like locked into the 4 probably with Cooper at the 3, which is still like great. I mean, Boozer's going to be amazing.
Great positional size.
Yeah, either way, there's not a guard that's like cracking that group. So it just changes a little bit. It changes a little bit like roster building wise in the future. But man, you get to like put those 2 together, like whoever it is, like Cooper with one of those 4 guys. That would be considered one of the best like 2-year drafts that we've ever seen in like the history of the NBA, to pair those 2 type of prospects together. But even if they don't land in the top 4, landing in that, 5 or 6, 7, 8, which is probably not going to be 6, but the 7, 8, 9 range, somewhere through there, they need a guard, and they can come away with a guard in this.
Yes, if they don't get one of those top 4 picks, if they stay in the 7th spot in the lottery, like we've been talking about, where they kind of are stuck right now. If they say that they cannot get 5, they cannot get 6. It's just impossible with the lottery odds. It's 0% for both of them. So they don't get one of those top 4 guys. If they get one of the top 4 guys, you're set going forward. The plan to be back to a contender starts with those 2 guys, and then you do all the stuff we're going to talk about the rest of this episode, and then you just figure out how those 2 guys fit together, what they need around them, and we get to figure that out for the next couple of years through their rookie deals. And so that's the story with that. After that, if you get 7, 8, 9, like Isaac said, then you're looking at, okay, who are the guys in that range that Mavs could get that could set them up? Because then all of a sudden you're betting on a guy. It's not just, hey, we're picking one of these guys and we really think that these guys are going to be really good. It's, all right, I'm going to take a bet on a Darius Acuff, Michael Brown Jr., a Keaton Vogler, one of those guys. If you had your pick of the guys that look like they're in that 7 to 9, 10 range, who would it be right now?
It's tough because, we were just talking about, like, all 3 of these guys I think would fit in Dallas to a degree. They all have their like really strong strengths. They all have their like weaknesses and stuff. Like, this is going to be purely of like the eye of the beholder, kind of like the second version of like what will happen at the top of the draft. Like, everybody wants to like, try to plant their flag on one of the 3 guys at the top of the draft, when it's going to come down to like who gets the pick. Like, if the Jazz get number 1, they're probably going to take DeBonsa, right? Like, right. But if like another team lands at 1, they might take Boozer or they might take Peterson. So it's not, and it's the same like with these guards in this range. If you find a team that's like, hey, we want, let's say it's the Wizards, and the Wizards are like, hey, we're not committed to Trae Young in the future. Like, we love Darius Acuff. We want to give him the keys to the future. And it's like, bam, he's our point. We want a pure point guard to run the system for a long time. Then they might have Acuff above some of these other guys. You look at a team like Dallas, and what if Dallas is like, hey, like, we have Kyrie for the next few years. Acuff's probably going to come off the bench for us. If that's the case, like, Wagler is a guy that can, like, he's a connector, right? He can play with Kyrie. He's big enough. He's a shooter. And so for me, I've had him there for a while, but it's super, super close. I still have Michael Brown as the like top person in that guard group. But the key for them is like, you got to walk away from this draft of the number 1 step of trying to get back to a playoff contender type of team next year. You got to walk away with this draft picking a player that is going to be a main part of your rotation right now. And whether it's coming off the bench, whether it's starting alongside Kyrie in the backcourt, if it's one of those guys in the front court, you got to pick one of those type of guys. And I think all of those guys can fit that. You got to get it right. So, yeah.
Why Michael Brown, the guard from Louisville, instead of Acuff, Vogler? Like, explain the difference between him and the other ones.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit less. There's a little bit less worries for me about him compared to the other guys. And it feels weird if you're going to like go through all the other guys and be like, all right, here's the negatives about some of them. For Brown, he's 6'5". He can play the point. He can play off ball too. He's played a lot of off ball at Louisville. But he's played a lot of point too. You go back to the summer and this like U18, U19 Team USA stuff. He just blew up then, and with DeBonsa, Morez Johnson Jr., Koa Pete for Team USA, going back and watching some of those games, a lot of fun. He's running the show, and he can run the show. Some of his athleticism stuff, his athleticism, like ability to play above the rim, I would say is definitely better than Wagler, but better than Acuff, Phylon, if you have him up there. I just think he does. Yeah, there's more of he could shoot from the outside, outside. Like I watched a game a while back. He hits 10 threes in that game. He could take them off the dribble. He can do the catch and shoot threes. You can catch games from him and you're like, wow, the inconsistency, right? Like you can catch a bad game. You watch that Duke game and you're like, how are you still higher than this guy watching this game? Okay, well, you counter it with another one from that. And I'm slightly higher on him than the other guys, but there's still a lot of March to come. There's the combines coming where there's a lot of measurements. Like the combine measurements for a Darius Acuff is going to matter to a ton of people. He's listed as 6'3", the same height as a De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Maxey, some of these guys, and no one talks about height with those guys. But Acuff, for some reason, people think he's from the Shire, and I'm like, he's not that small. Like he's a built point guard too, and I think he'll be good in the league. Wagler, like I said earlier, connector, one of the best shooters, a Jamal Murray type of thing. He's just not going to blow you away with athleticism and strength and all of that, but he can play as that. Hey, you want him to play a 1, you want him to play a 2. There's a lot of versatility with a Wagler compared to, like, if you get Acuff, he's got to be your 1. Like, he's got to be the ball in his hands as your point guard, which can be a really good role in the league for him.
For the Mavs to take the next step forward, they hope that they have, they get that 32% chance to get in the top 4 to get Boozer, Peterson, DeBonta, Caleb Wilson. You hope that. But if they don't and they stay around 7, 8, even 9, there's a guy out there for him. Acuff, Michael Brown Jr., Keaton Vogler.
Yeah.
One of those guys would be really, really good for the Mavericks going forward, and that's the first step. The next step for the Mavericks is in free agency. Can they add somebody? Can they add some of their needs? I want to go through some of the needs of a team that's in the top 6, and then we'll talk about how the Mavs can potentially get one of those coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. I need them to tell me the difference between a Confetti Craze and a Cotton Candy Craze. Like what's the difference between the two? Cotton Candy, delicious swirl of sugary clouds, fruity twist, hint of vanilla in the Cotton Candy. Okay. Confetti Craze, delicious blend of rich and buttery, freshly baked confetti cake. Oh, so you got a cake one, and then you got more like a sugary, airy one. Okay, so that's the difference between the two of those. Mine, if I'm going to pick one, I've picked a different one every single time, I feel like. I'm doing straight up watermelon today. Cool, crisp, caffeinated, juicy watermelon candy style flavor. It's light, refreshing with a little bit of sweetness. You can get all these different flavors, 18 different ones at 5 Hour Energy. Go see what's your number one pick. You can get a 5 Hour Energy shot that give you a boost of energy with 0 sugar right now. You can find your favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online or at 5 Hour Energy. It's the number 5 hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Go check it out, 5hourenergy.com. Also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. If you haven't gone to something in a while, it's fun to go to stuff, to go to sporting events, to go to concerts, comedy, theater, all kinds of things. I opened gametime.co, and the first 3 were Cavs at Mavs, which I'm like, okay. Not feeling too great about that. Then it was Cardi B. Then it was BTS. There's something for everybody happening in DFW right now. You can get FC Dallas tickets. They're starting up. So you can do some of this. You can go watch some of those games. There's one coming up in a couple weeks or so. Rangers games are starting to be on there. There's the Eagles, Doja Cat. Literally, you can do anything in DFW, and you can get all your tickets on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac, let's talk about the Everydayer Club, LockedOnMavericks.supercast.com. You can get access to ad-free episodes of this show if you're sick of the ads. If you're in the comments and you're complaining, hey, put your money where your Twitter fingers are. And you can subscribe $5 a month or $50 a year to get that. Also access to our Discord, bonus, national content, all kinds of stuff with the Everydayer Club. So subscribe there, LockedOnMavericks.supercast.com, or check the link in the description. All right, Isaac, let's talk about the Mavs' next steps to becoming a contender, or to be a playoff team, or start to be like competitive again next season and going forward. When I did this a little while ago, I started to look through the top 6 teams and what all these teams have and what the Mavs would need to get in order to be in this level. And it feels like all these teams have two top level players, all-star, all-NBA level players. I feel like every single one of these teams has one. It's your Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren. It's your Jokic and Murray. It's your Luka and Reeves. It's your Maxey and Embiid or Edgecombe. It's those type of guys. Then you have 2 or 3 high-level role players around him. It's your Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, and Peyton Watson, or who else you want to add in there. It's your next level guys. You're like, all right, these guys are starting for us. They're playing big roles. They can carry a little bit here and there for us. Boom. they all had a high level lead guard in some way that can get a bunch of threes, create threes, create like for themselves, create for others a little bit. They all have that guy in some way. You look across the board. And in some cases, it's like Anthony Edwards, who's not like your point guard, but it's a lead guard in some way. Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs.
Or a lead creator. We can say that. Because like a Boston has Brown and Tatum. I wouldn't say they're guards, but it's like a lead creator.
The weird thing about them is they have Pritchard. The also other weird thing about them, I talked about 3-point shooting yesterday. They're an odd team where like they have every team has at least one guy, like that. They usually only have one guy that takes more pull-up threes than catch and shoot threes, and Boston was the one where like Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Peyton Pritchard all take an equal amount of pull-up threes and catch and shoot threes. It's like they're just an outlier to me that you can't really look at them and be like, all right, we're building like them. It's like, all right, I don't think they can do that. So, but you got your 2 top level players, 2 or 3 high level role players, a high level lead guard. You have either one of 2 types of centers. You have the Dereck Lively type, the rim roller, defending the rim, workhorse type, or you have like a Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Chet, where it's like a do-it-all kind of player. You have to have an elite wing or guard defender. Pretty much everybody has one of those, unless you have some other way of defending, like the Cavs with their double bigs. And then you got to have at least 2 or 3, probably 4 volume 3-point shooters. That's your list. Like that's the things the Mavs have to add. And so as I go through that, was there one of them that stood out to you where you're like, the Mavs do not have that? Like we absolutely need to try and add that.
I mean, they definitely got to add more shooting, right? Like some in multiple ways. Like it's not just a, hey, we're a Klay away. You know, there's multiple ways they can go about that. You know, starting with the draft. You know, you get one of those guys that can shoot. You go out. You look at where Dallas is at going into free agency. We get a lot of questions on our Discord and our text line. It's like, well, do they have space? Well, what's the exceptions? And it's like, well, right now they have like $150 million in guaranteed money. That's under the tax, under both aprons. They have 10 players under contract. So since they're where they're at total cap guaranteed money wise, they should open up the full MLE, which is around $15 million. You can take that up to 4 years if you want. They didn't use their biennial last year. They didn't have access to it. They should have access to it this summer, which is could be a 2-year deal around $5.5 million for the biennial there. So you have those exceptions that is really you get access to after you make a trade like the Anthony Davis trade. That you can go out shopping for one of these things that Nick was laying out of like, here's these different things that you need to be a good team in the league. And the thing about it too is you have that MLE, I think is the new hot commodity with like roster building and free agency, because there's so many teams that don't have free agency, like they don't have cap space money. So, there's only a certain amount of players that's really going to take advantage of some of this money. And you're going to see some guys that's like, oh, they made this money last year. They're going to really take the MLE. And the like people who really don't think about it a lot, they're going to be the ones that's like, dude, there's no way they're taking that big of a like discount. And it's like, they don't really have another like ton of an option. So like you look at a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein for OKC, he's making like $20 million, this year. But if like next year he has a team option and OKC's like, all their extensions are starting to kick in, they might not want to bring him back for almost $30 million a year.
Right.
So then he hits the market and it's like, would you give Hartenstein, like would Hartenstein take the MLE at $15 million a year? If not, what team is going to give him 20 to 25 a year? So it's players like that like you might not think about, but could, like, I think that they can get a really good player to solve one of those needs that you're talking about for that MLE money.
Yeah, I started to look through the list, and there's not a ton that really stand out where you're like, okay, that's the answer. Our friend Kobe White, who we pined after for months, is gonna be a free agent.
Well, reminder too, you can trade people into that MLE, so you can go out and take advantage. The what?
And they have the $20 million you can take it. So you can do both. We've got a storm in DFW right now, and like I think we're 3 seconds delayed.
What is going on right now?
I don't know.
We have more of a lag on today's show than we normally do, but you could go out and make a trade for into that MLE to where if there's a team out there that is trying to shed some money this offseason, like in Indiana, it's like, hey, like we'll trade Neesmith to you for a draft pick, or it's a Hauser in Boston. It's a Moses Moody in Golden State, and they want to free up more money. It's a Bobby Portis in Milwaukee, and it's like you want to add a stretch big, type of thing. It's like those are type of players that make under that 15.5 through there that you could absorb into that MLE that could be part of your rotation. It's not just free agents, which there are some free agents.
For sure. And they have the $20 million exception from the Anthony Davis trade too. So you could potentially trade players into that as well. And so you start looking through and you're like, all right, well, there are some options there. To the straight up just free agents though, I mentioned Kobe White as one. Anthony Simons is one. The Celtics just traded him away, but he's one if you wanted to add a guard that can create a little bit and get his own shot. That's one that I would think about. The Ayo Dosunmu from the Timberwolves, we don't know if they traded for him, but I don't know if they'll be able to keep him with the amount of players they have to sign. That's another one. Our old friend Quentin Grimes bet on himself and did not get the money that he thought, and so maybe they just make that move and like, all right, we're just gonna bring this guy back. There's some random ones like that. There's your Rui Hachimura if the Lakers decide to make a bunch of big moves. Yep. You can bring in a shooting wing. Tobias Harris if the Pistons decide that they need to upgrade in a bunch of ways. Lou Dort is another one on the Thunder who's got a team option for $18 million. Is he gonna make that up somewhere else? There's LeBron James.
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought the delay was still going on.
Yeah. No, the storm was cutting in there.
There's some options like that. There's you mentioned Isaiah Hartenstein. Mitchell Robinson is one I've really targeted with that. If the Mavs aren't really comfortable with their center situation and they do end up moving on from Gafford, then you bring in Mitchell Robinson and Dereck Lively and have Dereck Lively, and that's your two-headed center. Like you're getting a lot of rebounds with those guys. Mitchell Robinson's making $13 million this year, and so if he takes that mid-level exception, the MLE that Isaac's talking about, it's 15, and so there's some options there in free agency. And the Mavs do have some flexibility, and it's really all because of that Anthony Davis trade. They'll have flexibility to add somebody like that to maybe fill one of those spots that I was talking about and how to build a team. The Mavs do have some of their own guys they need to make decisions on. What do they do with Max Christie, Khris Middleton, Marvin Bagley, some of the others? Let's talk about that and more. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they're really going to get to your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. TurboTax Expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment now.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac, let's talk about the Mavs' own players. So they have to make some decisions. We're talking about the Mavs trying to become a contender, or trying to add the pieces that they need to start to be competitive again, because I can't do this season again. I can't do it again. The first one they got to make a decision on is Max Christie, I think, because he is extension eligible. He's making $7.7 million this year, $8.2 million next year, and then has a player option for the 2027-28 season. But he's extension eligible, and so what are you looking at with Max Christie on their decision to make an extension?
Yeah, I mean, do you go the full way of what he's available to get? He'll be eligible for a 4-year, $93 million extension this offseason, which is around $24 million a year. Some other similar players in that age range or in that money range, to give you some context, is Josh Giddey, Kuminga, Kuzma, Dylan Brooks, Naz Reid, Cam Johnson. So if you think Max Christie at his age, what is he, 22? He's going to be 23 next year.
He's 23.
So if you view him in that type of range with some, hey, he's not even entered like his prime, and you're like, all right, Cam Johnson money, Kyle Kuzma money, Naz Reid money. If you think he's worth that, then I actually do think that the Mavs get this done. I would be kind of surprised if they just didn't do an extension at all. I think for me, it's just a matter of do they go the full what he's eligible at that 4-year 93, or is it like a little less? Either way, I think they get something done, and he's in Dallas moving forward.
Yeah, is there anything about the end part of this season that is making you rethink any of that? Because he is not.
Is there anything about the rest of the season that makes you rethink anything?
Maybe not, but
maybe
Nimhard. That would yeah, definitely. That would average out at $23 million a year, which sounds like a lot. So you go, man, $23 million for him, but let's see, that's like 13% of the cap, or 12% of the cap. So it really is not. 23 million is not what 23 million was like 5, 7, 6 years ago, and so that sounds like a ton. It's not, and he's still young, so he could still get better. He's been playing with he's a role player playing with all other role players right now. So if you're watching him right now and going, I don't see it, like they're asking him to do some more stuff and he can't really level up. It's like, all right, he's not playing in the context that you would hope that a Max Christie type player would play.
He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, and you're going to have more spacing next year, and you're getting Kyrie back. You're going to add probably a dynamic guard. Both of those guys, along with Cooper taking another step in playmaking forward, like they're going to have a lot more creation next year, to where you're going to look at Max Christie over on the wing and just say, hey, take all your catch and shoot open 3-pointers, which he's really good at. So that's why I'm like, I don't think you mess around with it. I think you keep Max, and it'll be a good, they need the shooting.
And he has, dabbled and tried and worked on getting his own shot a little bit here and there. He's running pick and rolls. He's attacking closeouts, and he's had some success doing that. He's not going to be your offensive engine. He's not going to, all of a sudden like change your world if all these guys get hurt, next year like they are this year. But he's solid. He's in his role, and I think and he could still get better. He's only 22 or 20. He is 23. He just turned 23. Because remember that video of Flag like singing "Happy Birthday" to him. Dereck Lively is also extension eligible.
Yeah, no, you don't mess with that.
That's one that's strange. He's making $5.2 million this year, $7.2 million the year after that. Then he's a restricted free agent. I think you wait that one out, definitely through next year and try and figure it out. But at least he's restricted. And so at least then you have, all right, we have control that if he does have a crazy year next year and then somebody wants to bet on him, the Mavs can at least match on that one. Khris Middleton decided to stay with the Mavericks. He came over in the Anthony Davis trade, but decided to stay with the Mavericks the rest of the season, which the Mavs will now have his bird rights in a way. So they will be able to retain him. And that was, according to Mark Stein, like that was a big thing for him. And so that's somebody. He's making $33.2 million this year, but they won't need to use one of the exceptions to keep him because they have they'll have his rights. And so that's something to really consider. Yeah.
The thing with having his rights too is it does open the ability that he gives you the option to sign and trade too. Like, right. If there is a player out there that they could, sign or trade Middleton to a little bit bigger of a number in order to bring in another guy, from another team that's making, a bigger number. But no, I would love, I have no clue what Middleton's next contract will look like. So it's like Middleton on the minimum. I mean, that's a big win for me. So, but how high you go up in that, I don't know. But I would love to have him back on a really cheap deal.
It's a strange spot to be because we're looking at next season. You're like, all right, it's probably gonna be Kyrie, Max, Cooper Flagg, PJ, Lively. If Lively comes back to
right now, that's your penciled starting five.
Penciled starting five. I could be convinced Naji over PJ. I could be convinced that Gafford will be starting because Lively is not healthy. Like I could be convinced of those. Then you're bringing the draft pick probably off the bench if it's a guard. I'm assuming it's a guard. I'm not assuming it's one of the top three right now. Klay, Caleb Martin, Naji, and Gafford. That honestly is like a really good like bench unit. Then you've got free agent spots. You've got the 30th pick or the Mavs second pick of the draft we haven't talked about. And then the last one is Bagley. Between Bagley, Ryan Nembhard, Moussa Cisse, is anybody standing out to you where you're like, all right, they should bring that guy back?
Well, here's the tricky thing with Bagley is you don't have bird rights with him. So the highest, it gets confusing with Bagley because the highest you can go in the next Bagley deal is like $3.5 million. So basically, in order to bring Bagley back, he's got to go into one of those exceptions. And this is where, for me, I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, I would love if he was willing, take the biannual. Like the 5.5.
The
I
one
would give
D'Angelo Russell took this year.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I would give the Bagley that. If it goes above that, and then you're like dipping into that MLE, and you're like, oh, we're gonna give half the MLE to like Bagley, that scares me a little bit. But I would love personally if it's like, hey, we did the max extension, we added a solid, good player through the MLE. Whether it's a free agent or a trade, and then we brought Bagley back on that biannual at the 5.5. I think that would be a solid offseason right there. And you obviously got to figure out like the Nembhard Cisse part. I would love to bring Cisse back, but then who's the bigs at this point? Like, what are they with Gafford? If you take a big, a lot of people love mocking a big to Dallas with that second first-round pick right now. Yeah. You don't have to take a big in that spot. I think there's going to be some wings there that might surprise some people that Dallas could take. But, you're not going to bring 5-6 different centers, to camp. You're not going to have Lively, Gafford, Cisse.
The way that the season ended 2 years, like last year, where the Mavs were starting Walker or Kessler Edwards at center for a bunch of games, maybe the Mavs are just like have PTSD and they're just like, all right, we just need to have as many centers as possible because we're not doing that again.
Yeah. So like,
right now.
Is there a world that go to camp with Lively, Gafford, Cisse, Bagley, and like Henri Vesar from UNC? They picked it, 29 or 30. And it's like, we have 5, bigs there.
They have 5
I don't
right
know.
now.
Right?
They have Lively, Gafford, Bagley, Musa, and
All these changes, and I still got my dog Dwight Powell. I still got.
And we didn't mention him. He's a free agent, so
he's honestly playing.
Him and Brandon Williams are their only 2 free agents.
Yeah, those are the ones
outside of the.
Yeah, those are the ones we haven't talked about yet, but. Those are the moves that we think the Mavericks should make. Those are the things that they're going to be talking. We're talking about all those different moves all offseason, talking about different options, talking about different things. Obviously, we'll talk about the draft picks, talk about the free agent spots, the mid-level exceptions you're going to hear over and over again. We'll talk about options for that. So coming up, we'll talk about some more for the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to do some true and false for the rest of the season. What's real, what's not? We'll tell you. Subscribe to the Everydayer Club. Get ad-free episodes of this show. LockedOnMavericks.supercast.com. Links in the description. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.